The moment we stepped off the plane, the air was different. Medellin buzzed with life, vibrant colors splashed against the backdrop of the Andes. I could feel the energy in my bones, the excitement of being somewhere new. "Look at that view, Clara," my father, Arthur, exclaimed, his eyes sparkling as he pointed towards the mountains. But even with the beauty surrounding us, a knot tightened in my stomach. Something was off. Arthur had always been my rock, but today he seemed distant, lost in thoughts I couldn't reach. "Dad, are you okay?" I asked, trying to catch his gaze. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, just a bit tired from the flight," he replied, brushing it off like it was nothing. But I knew him better than that. As we wandered through the bustling streets, the scent of arepas and fresh fruit filled the air. It was a feast for the senses. I felt alive, but the unease clung to me like a shadow. "Let's get some food," I suggested, hoping to lighten the mood. Arthur nodded, but his attention was elsewhere, scanning the crowd as if he was searching for something or someone. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a familiar voice. "Clara? Is that you?" I turned, and there he was, thus Mateo, my childhood friend, a smile breaking across his face. My heart raced. "Mateo. I can't believe it." We hugged tightly, memories flooding back. I had missed him. "Your dad is here too?" Mateo glanced at Arthur, who stood a few feet away, still distracted. "Yeah, we just got in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're here to explore the city together." Mateo's eyes narrowed slightly, and I sensed a tension in the air. "It's good to see you, Clara. I'll show you around if you want." His offer was tempting, a way to escape the worry gnawing at me. But I hesitated, glancing at my father. I don't know." "Dad?" I turned to him, but he barely seemed to notice. "Go ahead, Clara." "It's fine," Arthur replied, his voice absent. I felt a flicker of disappointment, but Mateo's smile brightened my mood. As we walked through the streets, laughter spilled between us like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Remember that time we got lost at the park?" Mateo chuckled, and I joined in, the memory warming me. "Of course. We thought we'd never find our way back." But as we strolled, I couldn't shake the feeling of being torn. A part of me wanted to dive into this moment with Mateo, to forget the worries clouding my mind. Another part, the one tied to my father, felt heavy with doubt. What secrets was he hiding? Why was he so distracted? "Clara?" Mateo's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Is something wrong?" I hesitated. "I guess I'm just worried about my dad." Mateo's expression shifted, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. "You know, there's more to your dad than you realize. He and we have a history." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Just things he hasn't told you. You might want to ask him." My pulse quickened. What could he possibly mean? I felt drawn to Mateo, yet this revelation created a chasm between us. "I will," I said, though uncertainty gnawed at me. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I felt a longing for clarity. The laughter faded, replaced by questions that loomed large. What secrets did my father carry? What kind of history did Mateo share with him? And who was I in all of this? In that moment, I realized this trip was more than just a chance to bond with my dad. It was a journey into the unknown, a path lined with hidden truths and tangled emotions. I took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, but little did I know, the hardest truths were yet to come. As the days passed in Medellin, my connection with Mateo grew stronger. Each moment we spent together seemed to pull me deeper into a world filled with laughter and shared memories. It felt like we were kids again, playing in the sun, free from the weight of adult worries. I often caught myself smiling, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. "Do you remember when we used to climb those trees in the park?" Mateo asked one afternoon, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Of course. I thought we'd get in trouble for it, I laughed, the memory bringing warmth to my heart. Mateo grinned. We were bold back then. Nothing could stop us. But as much as I enjoyed our time together, a shadow loomed over my happiness. Arthur continued to make excuses to leave, slipping away during our outings. I have some meetings to attend, he would say, his voice distant. Each time, I felt a pang of disappointment. I wanted him to be part of this experience, to share in the joy I found in reconnecting with Mateo. Is everything okay with your dad? Mateo asked one evening as we sat on a bench overlooking the city. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden light around us. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He seems so distracted all the time. Like he's somewhere else. Mateo nodded, his expression serious. He's been through a lot. I think he carries some heavy burdens. What do you mean? I pressed, my curiosity piqued. Mateo hesitated, his gaze drifting towards the bustling streets below. I can't tell you everything, Clara. But I know he's not the man he wants you to see. There's a history between us, a complicated one. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. What kind of history? He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of something in his eyes, concern, maybe even fear. Just things he hasn't told you. It might be worth asking him directly. Why can't you just tell me? I felt frustration bubbling up inside me. I need to know. Mateo sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's not my place to share his secrets, Clara. You have to understand that. But I think if you ask him, he might open up. I was torn, my heart racing. Should I confront my father about his past? What if it changed everything between us? I'll think about it, I finally said, though my mind was already racing with questions. Over the next few days, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Whenever I was with Mateo, laughter and joy filled the air, but the thought of my father's secrets haunted me. I felt a growing distance between us, like an invisible wall had been built. One evening, as we walked through a local market filled with colorful crafts and street food, I spotted Arthur across the street, deep in conversation with a man I didn't recognize. He looked tense, his usual smile absent. Clara, are you coming? Mateo called, pulling me back to the moment. Just a second, I replied, my heart pounding. I wanted to walk over to my father, to ask him what was wrong, but something held me back. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, afraid to jump. Everything okay? Mateo asked, noticing my hesitation. Yeah, just. I'm worried about him, I admitted. Mateo watched me for a moment, then said, you know, sometimes people need space to deal with their past. But you can't ignore it forever. His words struck me hard. I realized that I couldn't keep living in this uncertain space, balancing my relationship with Mateo and the hidden truths of my father. Maybe I should talk to him, I said, determination rising within me. Just be careful, Mateo warned gently. You might not like what you find. As the sun set behind the mountains, I felt a sense of resolve. I needed to understand my father's past, no matter how painful the truth might be. But I also knew that whatever I uncovered might change everything I thought I knew about my family and my feelings for Mateo. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear, I was ready to confront the shadows lurking in my life, and I hoped to emerge into the light, no matter what it took. That night, everything changed. Mateo and I sat on the rooftop terrace of his apartment, the city lights twinkling like stars below us. The air was warm, and a gentle breeze danced around us. I could hear laughter and music drifting from the streets, but my heart felt heavy with anticipation. I knew Mateo had something important to say. Clara, he began, his voice serious, there's something I need you to understand about my relationship with your father. I felt my stomach drop. What is it? I asked, dread creeping into my voice. Matteo took a deep breath, as if preparing to dive into deep water. Arthur and I have a complicated history. It's not just a friendship, it's much deeper than that. What do you mean? My pulse quickened as I leaned closer, desperate for answers. He hesitated, searching for the right words. Years ago, before you were born, Arthur and I were close. We were like brothers. But something happened that tore us apart. It hurt both of us in ways I don't think you can imagine. I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. Why didn't he ever talk to me about you? Why the secrets? Because he's been carrying the weight of his past alone, Matteo said, his eyes locked onto mine. He made choices that he regrets. Choices that affected both of us. I think he wants to protect you from that pain. But I can handle it, I insisted, a mix of anger and frustration bubbling up inside me. I deserve to know the truth. Matteo nodded, understanding my turmoil. I know you do. But sometimes the truth is messy. It can change everything. Are you ready for that? I took a moment to absorb his words. The thought of confronting my father filled me with dread, but I also felt a burning need to understand. What happened between you two? I asked quietly. Matteo looked away, his expression clouded with memories. There was a betrayal, Clara. A misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. It drove a wedge between us that neither of us could fix. Arthur has always blamed himself for it. My heart raced. What kind of betrayal? I can't share all the details, he replied, his tone serious. But I can tell you this, it involved trust. And it hurt us both deeply. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. So, you're telling me that my father isn't who I think he is? That he has this dark past? Yes, Matteo answered softly. But remember, everyone has a past. It doesn't define who they are now. Arthur loves you, Clara. He's trying to be the father he thinks you need. The weight of Matteo's words settled heavily on me. I felt torn, caught between my loyalty to my father and my growing feelings for Matteo. I don't know what to do with this information, I admitted, feeling overwhelmed. Maybe start by talking to him, Matteo suggested gently. Ask him about his past. It might help both of you. I want to, but I'm scared, I confessed. What if it changes everything? What if I can't look at him the same way again? Change can be scary, but it can also lead to healing, Matteo said, reaching for my hand. You deserve to know the truth. And you deserve to choose how to feel about it. His touch sent a shiver down my spine. In that moment, I realized how much I cared for him. But the thought of confronting my father loomed like a storm cloud above me. I need time to think, I said, pulling my hand away. This is a lot to process. Take all the time you need, Matteo replied, his voice softening. Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what you decide. As we sat in silence, the city buzzed around us, oblivious to my inner turmoil. I felt the weight of my father's secrets pressing down on me, forcing me to confront a truth I had been avoiding. I needed to face my father, to ask him the questions that had been swirling in my mind. But as I stared out at the city lights, I wondered if I was truly ready for the answers. What if knowing the truth shattered the illusion I had of my father? What if it changed everything I felt for Matteo? Tomorrow, I whispered to myself, feeling a sense of determination rise within me. Tomorrow, I will ask him. I have to know. The night air felt charged with possibility, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. The morning light poured into my room, casting a warm glow that should have filled me with comfort. Instead, I felt like I was staring into an abyss. Today was the day I would confront my father about everything Matteo had revealed. My heart raced as I replayed the conversation from the rooftop terrace in my mind. The truth felt heavy, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to bear that weight. I found Arthur in the small kitchen, brewing coffee. The smell of rich beans filled the air, but it did little to ease my nerves. He looked up when I entered, offering me a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Morning, Clara." "Sleep well?" he asked, his voice light, but I could sense an undercurrent of tension. "Not really," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Arthur's brow furrowed, and for a moment, I thought he might press for more, but he simply nodded. "Want some coffee?" "Sure," I replied, trying to steady my shaking hands. As he poured the steaming liquid into a mug, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Dad, can we talk?" I finally blurted out, my heart pounding. "Of course," he said, setting the coffee down and turning to face me. His expression shifted, a hint of concern creeping into his features. "What's on your mind?" I hesitated, feeling the weight of his gaze. "It's about you and Mateo." His face paled slightly, and I knew I had struck a nerve. "What about him?" I took a deep breath. "He told me you two have a complicated history. Something happened between you, something painful." Arthur's eyes hardened, and I could see the walls he had built around himself start to rise. "Clara, No, please," I interrupted, feeling a surge of emotion. "I need to understand. Why didn't you ever tell me about this?" He looked away, his jaw tightening. "Because it's not something you need to worry about. It was a long time ago. I thought I had moved on. But it's affecting us now," I exclaimed, my voice rising. "I can't build a relationship with you when I feel like there are secrets between us. I want to know the truth." Arthur sighed, the weight of my words settling heavily in the room. "It's not that simple, Clara. Some things are better left in the past." "Better for who?" I challenged, my frustration boiling over. "You think keeping secrets protects me? It just makes everything worse." He ran a hand through his hair, visibly struggling. "You don't understand. The choices I made, they haunt me. I didn't want you to carry that burden. But I'm already carrying it," I said, my voice breaking. "I care about Mateo, and now I feel like I'm caught in the middle of something I don't even understand. I deserve to know why you and he are distant." Arthur's expression softened for a moment, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "There was a betrayal, Clara. A misunderstanding that tore us apart. It hurt both of us deeply, and I've carried that guilt for years." "What kind of betrayal?" I pressed, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. He looked down, avoiding my gaze. "I can't go into details. Just know that it involved trust, and it changed everything between us." "Why didn't you ever try to fix it?" I asked, my heart aching for the relationship he had lost. "I thought it was too late," he admitted, his voice low. "I thought that if I stayed away, it would protect you from the pain." I stepped closer, trying to connect with him. "Dad, I need you to be honest with me. I love you, but I can't keep living in the dark. I want to understand you." The silence that followed felt deafening. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the battle between his desire to protect me and the need for honesty. Finally, he spoke. "I never wanted to hurt you, Clara. I just wanted you to have a good life, free from the shadows of my past." I felt tears sting my eyes as I processed his words. "But don't you see? Living in silence only causes more hurt. I want us to be close, to share everything, even the hard stuff." He looked at me, and I could see the walls beginning to crumble. "I'll try," he said softly. "I'll try to be more open with you. But it's going to take time." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. "Thank you, Dad. I just want us to be honest with each other." As we stood there, the silence was no longer filled with tension but a sense of understanding. I could feel the cracks in our relationship starting to mend, but I also knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that truth, even when painful, was the only path to healing. The days that followed our conversation felt heavy with unspoken words. I woke up each morning with a mix of hope and dread. I wanted to believe that we could heal, but the past lingered like a shadow, reminding me of the pain both Arthur and I were trying to navigate. I could sense that we were both walking on eggshells, and I needed to break this cycle of silence. One afternoon, I decided it was time to take a step forward. I found Arthur sitting on the balcony, gazing out at the city below. The sun cast a golden hue over Medellin, but he looked lost in thought. I took a deep breath and walked over to him. "Dad, can we talk again?" I asked, my voice steady. He turned to me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Of course. What's on your mind?" "I think we need to keep talking about what happened between you and Mateo," I said, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "It's important to me." He sighed and leaned back in his chair, running a hand over his face. "Clara, I know I've been distant. I don't want to drag you into my past. It's complicated. I understand that, but I can't move forward if we don't face it together," I urged. "I care about you, and I want to understand what happened. It feels like there's a wall between us, and I want to break it down." Arthur looked at me, and for a moment, I could see the conflict in his eyes. "You're right. I've built walls to protect you, but they've only made things worse. I'm scared of hurting you. Being honest might hurt, but keeping secrets is hurting us more," I said softly. "What if you told me about that betrayal? Maybe we can find a way to heal it together." He took a deep breath, and I could see him battling his own memories. "All right. But you have to promise to listen without judgment." "I promise," I said, my heart racing. Arthur paused, collecting his thoughts. "Mateo and I were best friends once. We did everything together. But there was a moment when everything changed. I trusted him with something important, and he let me down. It felt like a knife in my back." "What did he do?" I pressed gently. "There was a girl," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "We both liked her, but I thought I had her heart. I was wrong. Mateo pursued her behind my back, and when I found out, it destroyed our friendship. I felt betrayed, and I couldn't handle it." I listened closely, my heart aching for both of them. "That must have hurt a lot. But it was a long time ago, right? Can't you move past it?" "Yes, but it wasn't just that," he said, his eyes clouding with pain. "That betrayal made me question everything, my choices, my trust in others. I didn't want to risk hurting you like I had been hurt." "Dad, you can't keep running away from the past," I said. "If you lock it away, it will always come back to haunt you. You have to face it to be free." He looked at me with a mix of surprise and admiration. "You're right. I realize now that I've been protecting myself, but in doing so, I've pushed you away. I'm sorry for that." "Thank you for being honest with me," I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "We can't change what happened, but we can choose to move forward." Arthur nodded slowly, his eyes softening. "I want to try. I want us to be close again, Clara. I don't want my past to define our relationship." "I want that too," I said, my heart swelling with hope. "Let's work on this together. We can talk about anything, even the hard stuff." In that moment, I felt the walls between us begin to crumble. The road to redemption would not be easy, but I was ready to walk it with him. As we sat there on the balcony, the sun setting over Medellin, I knew we were taking the first steps toward healing. Together, we would face the complexities of our relationship, allowing love and honesty to guide us through the darkness. As the days rolled on, Arthur and I found ourselves stepping out of the shadows of our past. Each conversation felt like we were chiseling away at the walls we had built. I could see the sunlight peeking through, and I clung to that hope. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt it was time to take a leap of faith. "Dad, can we sit down again?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. I found him in the living room, flipping through a photo album. His fingers paused on a picture of me as a child, a wide smile on my face. "Sure, Clara. What's on your mind?" The moment we stepped off the plane, the air was different. Medellin buzzed with life, vibrant colors splashed against the backdrop of the Andes. I could feel the energy in my bones, the excitement of being somewhere new. "Look at that view, Clara," my father, Arthur, exclaimed, his eyes sparkling as he pointed towards the mountains. But even with the beauty surrounding us, a knot tightened in my stomach. Something was off. Arthur had always been my rock, but today he seemed distant, lost in thoughts I couldn't reach. "Dad, are you okay?" I asked, trying to catch his gaze. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, just a bit tired from the flight," he replied, brushing it off like it was nothing. But I knew him better than that. As we wandered through the bustling streets, the scent of arepas and fresh fruit filled the air. It was a feast for the senses. I felt alive, but the unease clung to me like a shadow. "Let's get some food," I suggested, hoping to lighten the mood. Arthur nodded, but his attention was elsewhere, scanning the crowd as if he was searching for something or someone. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a familiar voice. "Clara? Is that you?" I turned, and there he was. Thus Mateo, my childhood friend, a smile breaking across his face. My heart raced. "Mateo. I can't believe it." We hugged tightly, memories flooding back. I had missed him. "Your dad is here too?" Mateo glanced at Arthur, who stood a few feet away, still distracted. "Yeah, we just got in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're here to explore the city together." Mateo's eyes narrowed slightly, and I sensed a tension in the air. "It's good to see you, Clara. I'll show you around if you want." His offer was tempting, a way to escape the worry gnawing at me. But I hesitated, glancing at my father. I don't know." "Dad?" I turned to him, but he barely seemed to notice. "Go ahead, Clara." "It's fine," Arthur replied, his voice absent. I felt a flicker of disappointment, but Mateo's smile brightened my mood. As we walked through the streets, laughter spilled between us like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Remember that time we got lost at the park?" Mateo chuckled, and I joined in, the memory warming me. "Of course. We thought we'd never find our way back." But as we strolled, I couldn't shake the feeling of being torn. A part of me wanted to dive into this moment with Mateo, to forget the worries clouding my mind. Another part, the one tied to my father, felt heavy with doubt. What secrets was he hiding? Why was he so distracted? "Clara?" Mateo's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Is something wrong?" I hesitated. "I guess I'm just worried about my dad." Mateo's expression shifted, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. "You know, there's more to your dad than you realize. He and I, we have a history." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Just things he hasn't told you. You might want to ask him." My pulse quickened. What could he possibly mean? I felt drawn to Mateo, yet this revelation created a chasm between us. "I will," I said, though uncertainty gnawed at me. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I felt a longing for clarity. The laughter faded,